Hello. I'd like to talk briefly about the importance of Turkish and the impact on its neighboring countries and the Turkic languages in Asia, even Chinese. I will not dive into Chinese very deeply because there is only the Ainu people there who have similarities with the Uyghur language. So, this is my brief introduction. I got my inspiration from Professor Dr. Johan van de Walle, who is a turkologist, and he mentioned certain impacts of the Turkish language uh, into the European languages. I mean, into the Indo European language family. So that makes me think about Turkish being more dominant than the Indo European families. That means the the impact of Turkish on its Indo European language families and the impact of Turkish on the other Turkic families, um, language families, which are in Asia. Now, I will start with, I might jump from language to language and people to people, but I will start with Ainu. There are similarities between the Ainu people and the Uyghur people in language. And also the vocabulary is similar. I will skip the details now, by the way. The structure is very similar. Um, and it says here there are also Persian influences. So the Ainu people are also very they are also very affected by the Persian language as well as the Turkic language. So they have a mixture between the two. So this is how you see the Persian language being affected on several people as well as the Turkic languages. So here we see some examples of Persian words and the Turkic languages. So in Persian and in Turkish, the word structure is the same, the sentence structure is the same. When you say, for example, in Persian, do asp didam, this means iki at gördüm. Um, so very interesting that Persian is also a subject-object-verb language, like in Turkish. So I must say then, these two languages must have been sister languages in the past, and they must have gotten affected from each other. But uh, which language is older? I will come to that at the very end of my video. Um, okay, we have here some comparisons with Persian and Turkish. Tajik and Uzbek languages, comparison between the two, there are similarities, but I went to Uzbekistan in 2018, and I can say I understood approximately what the people said, how they talked, because it's very close to Turkish as well. So maybe I can say the Uzbek language is a mixture between the Persian and the Turkish language. And I mean the vocabulary. They must have taken some Persian vocabulary as well as some Turkish vocabulary. And I think the Uzbek language has lots of ancient Turkish words as well. Um, Another thing that I would like to mention from my own experience is I think also that the Uzbek language and some stress when they speak, for example, they must have gotten highly affected by the Chinese language as well, because sometimes I feel, or it sounds like uh, it 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 sounds like you would speak Turkish Chinese, something like that, right? So here it makes a comparison between Uzbek and Tajik. So I very close, very close. And it gives some sentences. So that's what this professor did. He compared the languages, and I came to some conclusions, which I'm going to talk about later. Uh, it is the same about the tenses. Uzbek and Tajik are very close in the tenses and the verb formations, etc. And of course in the structure as well. So it goes on with Persian and Tajik. So it compares here the two languages, right? Another impact that Turkish had was on Greek and on the Balkan languages. Here we will have some examples. So we have Turkish, Kosovan Turkish, Greek, and Albanian. Okay, so in Kosovo and in Greek, in Kosovan Turkish and in Greek, the word structure changes into Indo-European. So the vocabulary is the same in Kosovan Turkish. You say, for example, isteyim babamı cürem. And it changes the word structure a little bit, the sentence structure. But the words are Turkish. In Greek, I mean in Albanian, you say dua ta shosh babain tim, which is a Indo-European structure, but it has Turkish words. So that's interesting how Indo-European affected the Balkan countries. Indo-European structure affected the Turkish language, but the words are still Turkish. So in one, say, on one, in I mean, one point you think that these two language groups intermixed or interfered with each other and intermingled and got fused, right? Except for the words. So the Balkan Turkish has some influences of Indo-European. We see here. Okay, but Gagavuz, the Gagavuz language, which is also a Turkish language, has a little bit separation of this. So it is a separate language. I mean, it has it hasn't been much of the influence of Indo-European, I guess. Let's see what it says. For example, in the Gagavuz dialect, that's very interesting. Very interesting. It says here, the Balkan Turkish copied the Indo-European clauses from the neighboring languages, that means Turkish, and changed the word form from subject, object, verb to subject, verb, object. It would sound like this. For example, when you say in Turkish, Bir gün delikanlı demiş anasına ki kral verecekmiş kızını ona. Kim bekleyebilir kızını bir gece? Right? So we call it in Turkish devrik. So the sentence structure has become a little bit like in the European structure. So very interesting. And it says here Gagavuz has established its own separate Turkish language. So Gagavuz, yeah, is actually a form of Turkish, but a dialect of Turkish. So you can understand the Gagavuz people when they speak Turkish, but they, of course, they have a slightly different word structure, sentence structure, but you can understand them still. So they must have been under the effect of the Indo-European languages because they are in the Balkans. So we have here also the Karaman Turkish, which is about the Greek Orthodox influence we see here. Very interesting. I would like to tell you about this alphabet they used. I mean, this is Turkish, right? This is what the professor Van de Valle showed here in his video, and it was found in Sille, but the letters, they might be Greek, but it writes in Turkish, so you read this in Turkish. It is the same here, right? So this must mean that Turkish people must have applied in the past several alphabets, like for example the Arabic alphabet as well. So not only one, so they had a very rich language, so we have a very rich language, and we can apply them on several alphabets as well. Of course, there are some lacks in Arabic. You don't have some vowels in Arabic, so the best way to apply an alphabet would be the Latin alphabet for Turkish. So that's very interesting. I would like to tell you the influence of Indo-European language and the Turkish language in Albanian. Albanian must have been in both, under both influences, the languages, I mean, Indo-European. Say, for example, liber is book. It is libro, I mean, probably Latin origin. But when you say kitab, which is also used in Albanian, it means that it is an old worthless book. So you see the difference, how actually Turkish got fused, got self-worthless in some Balkan languages, like for example Albanian, right? Albanians use liber for, an upper class, but when they say kitab, it is an old book, it is a worthless book. So you see the change in meaning here. Another thing is the effect, Turkish effect on Greek. Here you see how our words affected the Indo-European vocabulary. Like here we see it in Greek. You say for example kasap in Turkish, or bakkal in Turkish, or manav in Turkish, And in Greek it is kasapiko, bakkaliko, manaviko. So certain addings are made after the word. There is also an influence of Turkish on Bulgarian. Here you see the similarities between, for example, Turkish, Bulgarian, and Albanian. And Greek. It gives you the similarity, and here you see that there are certain suffixes, right? So what you see here on the front here, this is all the Turkish suffixes which come after the word. And Greek, Bulgarian, Albanian, they just summarized it and they made it ch. Like for example, in Greek, you say boyadzis, or in Bulgarian, you say bojadzija, probably pronounced like that, or arabadzija. So you take the word araba and you put a suffix behind it. And in Albanian it is the same, bojadzi or hotelzi, and so on. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it is the same effect of Turkish on the Balkan languages. Now, that's very interesting. In Turkish, in Old Greek and in Modern Greek, we have the same singular and plural form. So that must mean that Turkish affected its neighboring countries. The Turkish structure, the skeleton of Turkish affected all the neighboring countries. Right, we will see the other countries as well. When we say, for example, in Turkish we say insan, insanın, insanlar, insanların. It is the same in Old Greek, like atropos, atropos, yeah, and it goes on like that, right? In Modern Greek, I don't know how to read that part, but it is the same structure. It is the same with the sentence structure. So shortly, I would like to say the Balkan countries and Greek was highly influenced by Turkish. Turkish structure, the skeleton of the Turkish structure gave much influence to the Indo-European languages. So they were very much influenced by the Turkish. Now, we have also contact with Armenian, which is very, very interesting. I didn't expect that. I really don't know these languages except for Italian. But this thing in Armenian was very, very interesting. It gives you, okay, here you see, for example, a Turkish, let's say this is Turkish, but expressed in Armenian, but actually it was Turkish. Very, very interesting is that Armenian has also, for example, we say in Turkish, yepyeni ev, masmavi deniz. And in Armenian they have the same. They say nopnor or gaska buyut, which is very, very interesting, stunning. So I must say that Armenian got also affected by Turkish. It's not vice versa. It is the Turkish influence on the the neighboring languages, which were or which claim to be all different, or which claim to be all Indo-European, but probably the main stem was all Uralic. That's what I think. That's what I claim. Probably Turkish served the Indo-European languages, and they all took it in, and probably they all got assimilated in a way. They were once Turkish, and they all changed into the Indo-European languages later on. So here actually you see the assimilation of Turkish, right? So Turkish stands alone in Anatolia. I mean, the region of Anatolia. It is alone because it is surrounded by the Indo-European languages. It's like Hungarian in Europe, right? That's why I gave the example of Hungary in Europe, because Hungary is a complete different language family in Europe, and I'm sure that Hungarian affected the neighboring countries as well, which are Indo-European languages. So Hungarian as well as Turkish must have had the same effect, must have had the same influence on its neighboring countries, while trying to stay alive, while not trying to be assimilated. So, very interesting about Armenian. Okay, it is the same structure with the past tense. I'm not telling you, but because I don't know Armenian. So these are all the suffixes that you get, that you have when you form your sentence after you put the past tense. The same. It is the same with relative clauses in Armenian. Okay, now let's turn to Hebrew. I didn't know that. The Karaim language, the Hebrew language, has similarities with the Turkish language. If you consider the skeleton of the language. So, very interesting. Very interesting. So here, this is the Hebrew alphabet, which was used blah blah blah. He says here. So that's the Karaim Bible, and the professor said that it was actually used by the Turks. So the Turks used this alphabet to express themselves. So probably in the past, Turks used several alphabets to express themselves, to write down their language, but they used several other alphabets. So, okay, we have here some examples, Turkish examples, Karaim examples, Hebrew examples, and Polish examples. Okay, so let's say all these languages got affected by each other. They took some words, we took some words, etc. But the skeleton of Turkish served the European languages, the Indo-European languages, the neighboring countries especially. So even contact with Russian. So I know about Russia, that it had heavily affected Russian as well. We see here, for example, the Kazakh people. So the Kazakh, of course, they used the Cyrillic alphabet in order to express themselves. That means, of course, that Kazakhs express themselves in Turkish by using the Cyrillic alphabet. So several alphabets were used for expressing themselves in Turkish. Now, of course, there are some differences when we have, for example, in Turkish we say memleketimizde, and the Kazakh people say memleketimizde, something like that, right? So they write it like this here, but I strongly claim that the Kazakh people, or the people which were once in the Soviet Union and now are independent states, that they should use their mother tongue. They should use the Kazakh language instead of using Russian, right? For example, if you have roots in Turkish, you must use your Turkic dialect. That's what I claim. Otherwise, we will forget about our own mother tongue, and in the future, there will be nobody who claims that you were Turkish or from the Turkic country, or from a Turkish tribe or something like that. So we must not get assimilated, because we have a rich, I see that we have a rich language. Our skeleton of Turkish has served for thousands of years. Even the Iranian language, the Russian language, I see now Hebrew, Armenian, which stuns me. I knew about the Turkic languages, of course, but I didn't know that we use the most clear Turkish, the plainest Turkish. Of course, we have lots of Arabic words, lots of Persian words, lots of French words in our language. But when you apply it into the Turkish language, it fits very well into the skeleton, into the subject, object, verb structure. And it doesn't stand out, right? So what I want to say, that I think, anyway, I will tell about this later. First, let me finish this part and then draw my own conclusions. Yeah, it says here, for example, Kazakh, of course, has loan words like Russian loan words, etc. So these languages were heavily influenced by the neighboring countries. We were all influenced by each other's vocabulary, which is of course normal. But the structure, I think, and I repeat, I think the oldest structure of the language was Turkish, which derived into the other branches, including Indo-European. So Indo-European must have once been Turkic, and Hungarian, of course, because Hungarian is also an agglutinative language with other vocabulary in the stem. So Hungarian is the only language, the only Uralic language, the only agglutinative language in Europe which has the same mentality as our language. So we are actually alone. But if you look from a broader sense, if you look at into the history of the languages, you will see that we have served, that Turkish, that the agglutinative languages have served, that the skeleton of Turkish has served all these old languages. Because if you look at the neighboring countries, they are all very rooted languages. So Turkish must be at least the same age as them. So it is not a young language, which some claim. And if our impact, if the skeleton of Turkish influenced such languages around the Balkans, etc., we must have lived in these areas. This is strongly what I claim, because you see it in the language. So this will actually serve the places where we lived. The languages that you speak are a proof of where you have lived. If there is a similarity, there must be some roots there. And if we have a similarity with Hungarian, we must have lived there as well, right? We must have mixed with the Hungarians. We must have mixed with the Balkans. We must have mixed with the Greeks, with the Persians. So one claim is not enough. Divisions is not good. You cannot claim then this is Iranian, these people were Iranian. No, they were all in contact with each other, and there must have been one source which must have affected all of them. So you see how Turkish is in the middle of the geography, and which surrounded, let's say, the rich contribution, which served a rich contribution to the other surrounding languages and neighbors. So this is free of politics. I don't want to deal with politics and no nationalism, etc. I only look at the perspective of languages and people. So the geography where you have lived, etc. So if one has minds and guts, he will understand what I'm trying to say. So this is the truth. And probably the ones that get angry or that don't accept this, that deny this, they must know the truth. Because first, what happens when you hear the truth? The truth is that you first don't accept it. You get angry, etc. You deny it then. But last, you accept it. And what you must accept is, sooner or later, that the skeleton of Turkish, that the skeleton of the agglutinative languages, especially Turkish, spread in history, forming the root of the other languages, of the Indo-European languages. So Turkish, let's say, the roots of Turkish, they go back thousands of years before all the other languages which formed the Indo-European families. So I claim that the agglutinative languages were first, and then the Indo-European languages derived out of this, leaving the agglutinative language on another branch, and developing an Indo-European language family, which of course took prefixes as well, suffixes, prefixes, etc. So Sumerian also must have been in that category. That's it. And I want to thank one important person in history who made us, or who showed us the way, because if he hadn't existed, we wouldn't know about the Turkish language, we wouldn't know about our identity, and we wouldn't know that Turkish was so important, and we wouldn't know that the geography was so important where we live. That person is Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. right? I must mention him. I don't think he was only a politician. He was a genius who must have seen all this, because he died in 1938, and the things that he named after, the importance that he gave, are now coming into light. I see this, and I want to thank also the scholars who give me an inspiration. For example, the historian, the Turkish historian Eren Karakoç, who gives me great inspiration. I would recommend you to follow his channel if you know some Turkish. And I would strongly recommend you to learn Turkish as well if you are foreigners, because this professor, whose name, wait a minute, I have to find his name again, whose name is Johan van der Walle, right? It's this professor. He claims that if you learn Turkish, you will become a polyglot, right? Which is very important, I think. I mean, because once you learn the language, you can apply it to the other languages as well. So how important must have been Turkish in history that we forgot all about it? I mean, we must teach this to our children. We must teach this the whole world, especially the Indo-European speaking people, right? So forget about politics, forget about nationalism. The Greeks must learn it. The Balkan countries must learn it if they don't know it. The Germans must know it. The Arabic people, the Hebrews, I mean not the Hebrews, sorry, the Jewish people must learn it. All the world around us, I mean all the Indo-European speaking countries, all the Iranians must learn it. So I didn't know that Turkish had so many similarities in structure with Persian. So this gives us the clue, and this gives us a very important, let's say, it gives us the clue that Turkish is not so new as it is thought. It must have been at least as old as Persian. Thank you very much.